I would like Mr. Abbo to set the table for us for this afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Boy, we almost magically got back on track timing wise.
Almost.
The next department to present is Employee Retirement System. I believe the Director, Rob Gurdon, is here to present on behalf of retirement. Rob?
Good afternoon. Welcome. Introduce the people you have with you. No. You're on.
I'm on? Okay, thank you. Robert Gurdon, Executive Director of the Wayne County Employees Retirement System. To my left is Todd Pickett and Gerard Grisco.
Thank you.
How would you like me to proceed? I do have my annual presentation for you. I can answer questions from the committee.
Give us the good news first.
Okay.
No, go ahead. The way that you want to present, go ahead.
Well, I'm happy to answer any questions. You know, for the last 12 years, I've been presenting a 10-year historical review of the retirement system, just because I firmly believe that when you want to measure the retirement system, you need to measure it over a longer time period instead of just a single point in time, because we're going to be paying benefits for 50 years. So it's really important to look at the success of the system over a longer term horizon. And so, again, I submit to you a 10-year overview, and I will go through some of the pages on it. And I can, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them on that page. And I won't belabor going through every page, but some of the highlights of this year of we are 65% funded for the county, 81% funded for the Wayne County Airport Authority. Our unfunded liabilities, though, increased this year of 3.5%. Our funded value of assets also, which is good, they increased by 23 million. And our accrued liability increased by 26.5 million. So you said, wow, Rob, you just told me that all three things increased. Why is what happened? That assets increased because we had a highlight of 26% return last year in the marketplace. And I'll go over that a little later. On accrued liabilities and unfunded liabilities both increased because the Retirement Commission adopted a 5-year experience study, and we changed the assumed rate of return from 7.25 to 6.75. So with that being said, the liabilities increased because of the discount rate. So on page 4, you can see, if you flip it on that presentation on there, and if you looked at page 4, you can just see the county funded ratio from 2012 going from 45 to 65% on the graph. And if you look
I'd like to break in. I always give the prerogative to the chair of the commission to ask questions with her busy schedule. So could she ask a question of you?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize for breaking into your report.
problem.
I do have a 1 o'clock meeting, but I wanted to make sure I get this on the record. Many commissioners, including myself, have been entertaining the thought of a drop program for Wayne County Institute. And I want to know, do you feel as the retirement ED, if that would be a benefit to our retirement system and then to the employees of Wayne County?
Okay, so drop programs in state of Michigan, there are several drop programs, and one I can tell you that is very close to all of us is the city of Detroit's Police and Fire. And so they have a drop program, and it is cost neutral. It's per their bankruptcy document. And so that as long as it maintains cost neutrality, they continue to run the program. At that point in time, because of neutrality, it's beneficial to the retirement system, it's beneficial to the employer, and it's beneficial to the employees.
I think that's important to note because we are, as we've discussed, having A lot of our employees retire out of the sheriff's department. And this could be a way where we could retain some of our sheriffs that are retiring, and it benefits the retirement system as well as keep some of our employees working. And I think that's something that we seriously have to look into for Wayne County, as it has benefited Detroit Police Department. It can certainly benefit our sheriff department here and other employees here as well, because our retirement rate, which I'm sure you'll get into, is astronomical right now. And if we don't do something, we're going to have an issue with retirement and funding retirement and our employee workforce, which we always talk about retention and retaining employees. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I hope that's something that my colleagues will entertain as we move forward with that, because it will definitely benefit the retirement system and our workforce. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Many of us have been in favor of doing that, but hopefully it will come to fruition before long.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You may continue.
Okay, thank you. So as I was mentioning, and if you have the data up right now on the slides, but if you flip the page to page 4, you can see graphically how the county funding ratio has changed in the last 10 years. So it's gone from 45% in 2012 to this year to 65%. And next slide would be on page 5. And you can see we have the Airport Authority highlighted for their 10 years, and from 2012, a low of 55% to today of 81%. So progress in both of the plans have been made. Some of the highlights, and if you move to page 6 of what has happened, and I mentioned right off the bat that the county's unfunded liability increased by $3.5 million. The county made some additional contributions this past year of $5 million. The airport's unfunded liability decreased by $354,000. And the airport made additional contributions of $268,000. And so you might say, why aren't they both going in the same direction? Part of it is done with the experience study. As I mentioned, we changed the assumed rate of return from 7.25 to 6.75. We changed mortality. And you'll see is when you go a little bit more amount of retirements the airport had last year, a little bit higher than normal. And so all that washes out in terms of increases, decreases, but when we do our yearly check with the actuary. So if you look at page 6, I just wanted to show, again, pictorially, because some people like to look at pictures. I think page 6 does a good representation to show in the red line, the accrued liability for both the county and the airport authority. The county has continued to pretty much go down, just this last year, slightly up. In the last year, that was, and I mentioned that was just because of the new rate of return assumptions, but you can see the unfunded liabilities for the county the last 10 years have continued to track down, which is a very healthy situation for us. The airport authority, their accrued liability has increased, but their unfunded liability continues to decrease. So again, they're making progress. Their funding ratio's up. If you want to look at a little bit about membership, that's the page 7 and 8. And the data on 7 supports the graph on page 8. But the takeaway here is that you can see that there are less people today in the system than there was 10 years ago on both. And you can see that the county has a defined benefit plan that is currently open, and the airport authority, they've closed their defined benefit plan, and all their employees go into the defined contribution plan. So you can see how those graphs change on page 8. You want to take a look at, again, the same data is on that chart that supports pages 9 and 10. We just sort of graphically put on page 9 the per plan, how those plans represent over the last 10 years. And in the county, Plan 5 is open, and that's distinguished by the purple line. And in the airport authority, you can see it, the purple line going down because everybody is going now into the defined contribution plan. Page 10 just represents that same line, blue versus red, on number of unfunded liabilities in red and the DB plans. And it just shows you is a graphical way on how the trend is going. And again, I can talk more about those trends if anybody wants to get into it. Page 11 and 12. Again, 11 is retired members and beneficiaries added and removed. And I have some graphs that help analyze that data, starting with page 12. And I know I just told you that, hey, this is a 10-year historical, and I got a graph that says 8-year county and airport. Well, 8 years ago is when we separated the county and the airport data more specifically, and so that I don't have better data to graph. Otherwise, it would be combined. But you can see the average annual pension added and removed by the county. And in 2014, it was 38,000. Today, the average pension is down to 28,000. But you can watch that line, how things have happened, and you can say, well, why did we have those spikes in 14 and 15? And those were different types of maybe incentives or reasons based on contracts or changes, because we know that in 15, we changed the defined benefit plan as part of our consent agreement. Pages 13. Graphically, well, again, want to show you defined benefit retirees added versus unfunded liabilities. Again, I'm concentrating on unfunded liabilities because that's what we're trying to pay. We're always trying to pay that unfunded liabilities, those promises that were made to the members and to the retirees. And you can see how from 12, we've really added, you can see how the retirees have been added the high amount in 12 and 13 and 14, then less retirees in 16, 17, 18. And as Chairwoman pointed out, we have had some increases in retirees in 20 and 21. And so retirees have gone up in the last 2 years. If you look at page 14, again, we just show 8 years again, splitting it out for the data to show defined benefit retirees added versus unfunded liabilities. And if you look at the graph for the county, really looks very similar to the page before because of the number of employees at the county compared to the airport. But you see the airport has had a lot more retirees in the last 2 years. If you look on pages 15 and 16, 15 is the data that drives these next couple charts regarding retiree members and beneficiaries added and removed. Why we're looking at this? Well, you can sort of see what's changing in the pension system. So in 2012, we had annual pensions added that year of $26,000 and removed of $18,000. If you look now in 2021, we added pensions of $30,000 and removed pensions of $17,000. So you're seeing a change of as people are dying and the change that the county has made to the retirement plans. It peaked again in 2015. The average pension was $41,000 that was added. You can see how the changes to the plan have smoothed it out the returns. But again, people retiring today, people dying today, there will always be that gap. I've been asked this several times, what's our retiree population look like? So on page 17, I've given you some idea. I know the graph is might be hard to read, but if you look at the first chart about the county, and if I start in the far right-hand corner going back, you can see that the population in 21 that is over 100 years old is 18. 95 to 99 is 109 people. 90 to 94 is 277. 85 to 89 is 395. 80 to 84 is 504. And under 79 and under is 3,066. So you can see over the years how that population has changed, but we do have longevity of age in our plan. The airport being a newer program, they don't have many individuals other than a couple that are between 90 and 94. Now we'll get into a little bit more of some financial data. On page 18, there's a lot of data here. And so I've made a few slides going forward to go over this financial data because I think it's sometimes easier to see it in trends. So on page 19, I've graphed for you the last 10 years of the active members that are currently here at Wayne County, not the Airport Authority, leaving the defined benefit plan before they retire. And so they're taking a refund of contributions. And you can really see from it starts to change dramatically in fiscal year 2017 at 1.6 million. Today, fiscal year 22, at 9 months in, we're almost at $2 million of withdrawals. Now, somebody might say, was that good or bad to the plan? For the plan sponsor, it's good because it eliminates liability. For the members, it's bad, but they're quitting and taking their money. So it takes out some liability off the county, but we're seeing that we're having a lot of quits and people are taking their money. Page 20 shows, it's one of my favorite graphs. I hope it's one of your favorite graphs. It's small, but I think one of the most important things is if you look at on the left-hand side, benefit payments versus unfunded liabilities. Again, I'm always showing unfunded liabilities as this red line, and it's continuing to slope downward to the right. So we're chipping away again on these unfunded liabilities, but you look at benefit payments, and benefit payments sort of has a inverted V. So in 2012, we are paying about $131 million, and then it spiked up to about 137 million in 2016. And now we're coming down that slope and benefit payments have started easing up out of the retirement system. And it's about 132 million. So what does that mean? That means that the amount of money that we're paying out of the retirement system has, it's spiked. This was that 10-year spike that we had, and it's coming down, and we have still high demands, roughly $11 million a month, but it's slowly changing the dynamics of how much money we have to pay out every year. The chart to the right just shows, again, that benefit payments in green against accrued liabilities. And it just shows you that, they were both going pretty good for a while. But again, accrued liabilities jumped up this last year, again, by changing some economic assumptions. Page 21 is, I just actually sort of covered that, but I'm going to talk about it just a little bit more. Why do we look at this page, and why it's important for us at the retirement system is, again, we look at this benefit payments, this inverted V, which is sort of smoothing out now over 10 years. But at the same time, what has happened to the plan? Well, the plan is the blue line, which is how many assets do we have in the plan at the end of each fiscal year. And you can see that our assets have gone up. So, which is a really good sign because we're making progress. We're helping to eliminate unfunded liabilities. But meanwhile, we were making those big benefit payments and we were continuing to grow assets. And that's one of the reasons why the plan is at 65% funded. So that sort of supports what's been happening, how assets have been able to grow. And the next page says, well, how do we do it? You look at from fiscal year 12 to 21, they're all positive years. Every one of those years in yellow are positive, with fiscal year 2021 being 26% return. However, we have that little line going negative, fiscal year 2022, 9 months, and that's to June 30th. And at June 30th, that shows a negative 7%. Markets have been very volatile with inflation, and the market's been really quite in turmoil this year. But we've made some progress since, I'm reporting through 9 months, but we made some progress going forward. Through July 31st, we were down only 4.3%. And then through yesterday, we were only down 3.2%. So markets have rallied recently, but it's we're probably not going to make our assumed rate of return next year based on where we're at. So next year when I come back here, I'll say, remember our 26% return? I hope so. But with all that being said, if we look at page 23, which is really important. In the retirement system, I keep saying I want to look at things at a longer period of time. Well, one of the things we do in the retirement system is we smooth our rate of return. So if you look at this page and you see the blue line, you see that blue line is almost like a best fit line, and that's a 4-year smoothed rate of return that we utilize in the retirement system called the recognized rate of return. And the yellow line is the actual rate of return, and you see it much more volatility. And we don't want to have a lot of volatility, because when we would come back to the plan sponsor, you or the airport authority, you'd say, oh, you owe a whole bunch more money, you owe less money. And you want to have predictable budgets and what we're trying to pay in the retirement system. And so by smoothing, we get a much more of a best fit line. And so you can sort of see you can see our last 10 years of returns. And in 2021 year, we recognized 9.6, even though the system did 26%. We'll have that in reserve, some of that for next year in reserves. So where do these contributions come from? Well, if you look on page 24, and it's a very complicated page, but I'll just say that page 24 has a lot of data, and we'll show some graphs in the next several pages, but this is where the contributions have come from in each of the last 10 years. And if we just go to page 25, because I think graphs do a much better view of the pictures. You can see that employer contributions to finance defined benefit plan, graphing out, you can see how they're coming in each of the different categories. This is for the whole plan, airport and county combined. And if we break it down a little bit in page 26, we'll say, okay, how do the employee and employer contributions look just for the county? And how does it look against pension payments? Because I just talked about that inverted V and the pension payments that we were having. So I graphed the pension payments across the last 10 years in the green line. And you can see on the bar charts that we've gotten some additional funding, and that additional funding through making money in the retirement system has helped us grow our account balance. So most of the time, all except fiscal year 2018, we're always taking money out of the retirement system or out of retained earnings, out of investments. We don't expect that we're going to get a dollar for dollar from the sponsors and the employees to pay the $11 million a month, but it shows you that we were able to grow and how the contributions came in. You look on page 27, again, this is the county only right now. You can see the last 10 years, that shows the fiscal year of these contributions and payments, and say, okay, well, that's great. What's projected? And so we project out for the next 20 years on the right-hand side, and you can sort of see those bar graphs are not. And so we just had an updated study by our actuary to update these projections, because every 5 years I'll get a new assumed rate retirement study, and we'll look at the assumed rate return. So we took all those factors and said, okay, let's now predict based on how we're going, when will we have this, when will we have some relief for the employer on funding, and that goes out to fiscal year 36 if this projection holds true. And if you look at the prior projections and the prior 10-year historical, our projections were higher than what was actually in place. We did very good on it against our projections. Our best projection guess in the green line is, again, what we are looking at, payments dropping. Now, how does that look for the airport authority? Page 28, you can see their employee contributions and employer contributions versus pension payments. And the big difference there is that the airport authority is paying pretty much their pension payments amounts almost every year. So that's why another reason why their funding ratio is much higher than the counties. So they're putting in more money to the pension payments, or they have less of an outstanding liability, long-term liability. So they're sort of matching those up, and they're getting a higher funding level on that. Page 29 is just a graphical presentation that tries to show us and the reader of, here's our unfunded accrued liability per active member, not retiree, active member. And the red line's the county, blue line's the airport authority, and you can see in 2012, it's $405,000 per active member, and today it's $281,000. So you can, because the active members and the county are paying, and this is just not saying that the active member is going to pay this, because we know the county's paying a large portion this year. They're going to pay this coming budget. They're going to pay $55 million, but this is just giving some idea of what that liability matches to a member, not to the employer. Just to give you some ideas of how large that liability is. Wrapping up my presentation, if you look at 2023 employer contributions to finance the plan, I mentioned just a minute ago that we're looking for our ARC will be $55.2 million. The airport will be 6.5, and you can see how that's broken down by normal cost. And again, I'll be more than glad to go into a little bit of this. But lastly, because it is a budget, and I always give this, want to end on my budget analysis, is I take our last 10 years of our budget, our blue line, and what our actual budget is, and we've continued to perform, and we don't spend just because it's budgeted. We spend what we have, what we need, and this last year we've had an increase of cost, and some of those increased costs were an increase of management fees because we had increased our investments. We hired a few new managers. Some of the fees were a little bit higher, so that attributed to almost $900,000. Then we had some higher costs with professional services. So this is the first real big uptick that we've had on our spending on our budget. And I'm happy to answer budget questions, presentation questions, any other questions that you have regarding the retirement system.
I really enjoyed having the graphs with the numbers. It was very easy to follow. Thank you very much. Mr. Mark Abel, let's have Commissioner Anderson first.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to ask a quick question. Do either of these graphs, it doesn't seem as though I was able to find the information on there with the highest pensioners, lowest pensioners, the average. Do you have those numbers available?
I don't have highest and lowest. Do we have highest and lowest with this? But I do have average. I would tell you that average average is really, if you would look on, you look to page 16. 15 would be the 15 would be the data. 16 would be the plotted graph. So I think if you go to page 16, if you could flip back on, if you flip to the graph, I think it might be easier. So 16 would say the green line would show the added pensions, blue line would be removed, net changed, and at the end of the year would show the average pension. So the average pension in 2021 was $28,079.
There's nothing on these charts that would indicate years of service, right?
No.
Is that easily available? Years of service and how they tie into those pension amounts?
You're looking for like an average or what do you,
Right, yeah.
like how many years of
Average.
service, an average years of service?
Actually,
For the county, we have an average years of service, 24 years, and an average age now of 74 years. An average age at retirement was just under 55 years. It's an evaluation.
great, thank you.
You. Or Mark Abel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rob, thank you for,
Bird wanted to.
Okay, that's on. The highest pensioner is $159,477 per year. I don't know the lowest though.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Rob. One of the purposes of the budget hearings is to actually talk about your budget. I know we divert to the plan itself. And I have some questions about the plan, but let's go back to the purpose. Last year, your budget for managing the plan was 7.6 million. This year, the recommended budget is 7.6 million. There's absolutely no change except for some variances in specific line items. So, I mean, it just kind of begs the questions. Are you guys comfortable with that budget?
Yes, we are.
All right, so no issues there. All right, so let me go to the plan. I know that you presented a lot of data. Let me give you kind of a synopsis that I have. I see. The assets of the plan are $1.046 billion that we recognize. Now, with the smoothing effect, the reality is that there's over $100 million of assets that are not incorporated in the recognized value of the assets because of the smoothing. So basically 75% of the gain from last year, which was $248 million, is spread into current year. So that's the effect of the smoothing. And the effect of that is that we really have over $100 million of assets greater than what's actuarially recognized. We have liabilities of $1.557 billion, so we're 65% funded. If we pay the ARC of $55 million this year and the ARC for the next 13 years, at the end of that 13-year period, the plan will be totally funded. And again, last year, there was earnings of $248 million. You mentioned that as of yesterday, we are 3.2% down. I compute that to be about $36 million. $36 million against the assets, and I used $1.148 million. So I know that we are funding the ARC in the budget of $55 million, and I know that we're putting an additional $5 million from the roads. I'm going to give you a statement. I want to ask you if you disagree with this. Even when the county was experiencing its most severe liquidity problems, the county was the most reliable source of funding to the retirement system. So I've got to believe that within the next 13 years, we pay the ARC, we are totally funded. So the bottom line of that is I think that our pension system is in pretty healthy condition as of this point. And that was the point of all of that discussion. Do you disagree with that?
I would say that I agree. I would say, Mark, I don't really disagree with any of your analysis. My analysis would be is that we're 65% funded and we have liabilities, and I'm projecting them out for you on page 27 as a projection. I just don't know what the future is. And so,
My point, though,
I
was
think
that
we're
even when
concerned.
we were experiencing our most severe liquidity issues, the county was the most reliable funding source to the pension plan.
I'm in the employees, yes. I include the employees because the employees check came out every 2 weeks.
So my point is that even without additional funding, I think that the county, based on its liquidity situation now with the $260 million fund balance versus where we are right now, the funding is much more secure than it ever has been.
Yes, I agree with that. Sorry. I agree with you.
I wanted to say thank you.
I was hoping you would not disagree with Mark. Thank you, Mark. Anything else? Chair Bell.
Thank you. As a member of the retirement board, I just want to let everyone know that is a very diligent, hardworking, thoughtful group of people who are dedicated to making sure that we're making sound decisions for the retirement board. And as you look at the last page, 2020 was an exceptional year when we had over $1 billion in the net position. So we are making decisions that are beneficial for our retirees and for the retirement system. And I want to thank our team for their direction and assisting us. But we are in a healthy position, as Mark stated. And I think we will continue to be in a healthy position because we do have dedicated people on the retirement board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Baydun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Just a point of observation on page 17, at the top where you have the table of 79 and under, 80 to 84 and under. Just notice that 79 and under, we had a decrease from 10 years ago of about 18%. 80 to 84, the decrease was 27%, 85 to 89, it's like 35%. And then when we get to age 90 to 94, we're going backward. It seems like people are living longer. Instead of 254, we have 277. The number is increasing. Is that, I'm just curious as to why. I guess maybe people are eating healthier and living longer.
I would think that healthcare is one of the major contributing factors.
I thought it was interesting just to see those numbers increasing instead of decreasing. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of longevity in this plan.
Sammy plans to, my good friend Sammy, the engineer for Wayne County, he plans to be around for 100 years.
Hope he is too.
Some probably walk around like a bionic woman, but they're still here. Or man. Mark, anything else?
No, I guess echoing what Chair Bell said, I think that they do a fabulous job. They got a lot of people's livelihoods in their hands that they manage for, and thank you for your service. I think you do a great job. And my point is, I think that our pension plan is in great shape, and a lot of it is attributable to, you know, the retirement board and the things that you do to manage it.
Very much.
I have to echo, thank you for being there for us, and we couldn't have a better team in place. Thank you very much. Keep up the good job.
Remember that next year.
I won't be here next year. Although I won't take my money out. Thank you very much. And Mr. Abbo, our next presenters.
The next presenters will be the Department of Public Services.
Gonna stick around? Commissioner Marecki, since you chair the committee, if you'd like to come up to the,
Okay.
next to me on the podium, you're welcome. Per our rules, I can't allow you to chair the meeting, but I can have you sit next to me. Good afternoon. We're ready when you are.
Thank you, Madam Chair of the committee, Madam Chair of Committee on Public Services, and Madam Chair of the Commission, who just walked out, and all the members. It is very interesting to be on this side of it. I'm used to sitting over at that table, and it was probably a lot easier when we were upstairs, but this is probably a lot better than the Zoom option. So I'm glad to be here with you today. Again, my name is Andrew Kandrivas. I am the interim director of Department of Public Services. I expect to be before you for formal appointment soon, I'm told. So I'm looking forward to that discussion as well. But if you'll allow me, Madam Chair, I just have, I'd like to do a little tour of the department, if you will. I've watched a few of the hearings, and we are definitely the heaviest in leadership that are here today. We have a lot of great people in the department, a very large department. So I'd like to just run through for all the commissioners who don't serve on Committee on Public Services and actually get to see them, see our leadership team so often. So at first, I want to point out Almika Steele, who is to my left here. Almika, as you all should know, is the Deputy Director. Almika is over Environmental Services and Parks. Those are her divisions. And she is also the Drain Commissioner, as some of you, especially in Western Wayne, know very well about the drains that we have. The Division of Environmental Services is led by Patrick Cullen, who is with us today, and his assistant, Liz Barrera. And yep, Liz is in the back there. And the Division of Environmental Services, they are here for the protection and enhancement of Wayne County's land and water resources. Some of the units in that division include the Land Resource Management, Watershed Management, Wastewater Facility Management, and Drains Maintenance. They also have oversight on the solid waste and soil erosion permitting system. And also they ensure compliance with state of Michigan stormwater requirements. Shifting over from the environmental and parks side, environmental side, we also have Parks, which you are all very well familiar with. Alicia Bradford, who is our wonderful director of the Parks Division, has been leading the division for quite a few years now. Her assistant is David Cartwright, who does a wonderful job. And I know that you all, every commissioner hears from Alicia Bradford every year at least regarding the local parks program. And park system itself is about 5,000 acres of green space, of parkland, recreation areas, waterways, and trails. I think some of us tend to forget all of that encompasses the parks. It's not just the little playscapes. It's not just these types of structures. It's also a lot of green space and a lot of waterways that are maintained by our employees at parks. We also cannot forget about the wonderful programming in parks. Of course, you all know about Light Fest. There's big events like the Marshmallow Drop and Mud Day. Haven't taken my kids to Mud Day yet. Never feel ready for that, but that hopefully will come soon. And then don't forget about all the other programming that happens throughout the county, throughout different facilities, and with partnership of a lot of other communities that Parks undertakes. It's some people call it Parks and Rec. We can't forget the recreational and programming side of it as well. I would like to take the chance today to introduce you to Scott Cabot. Scott is just new on board. He is the Deputy Director over the Road Fund divisions, if you will. And Scott is here, and he is comes to us from a long career at Republic Services, Republic Waste, 18 years there, and then over a decade in DPW experience for the city of Plymouth. You will meet him a little bit better when his appointment is before you. I think we're going to both be together on that day. So with the road fund divisions, let's start with, of course, the Division of Roads Maintenance. And you all know them because they have the big plows. They are supposed to fix the potholes and try to make sure potholes don't pop up. And also they remove the snow for all of our communities. There are 1,674 center lane miles and 311 bridge structures that are Wayne County Roads responsibilities. The Roads Maintenance Division is cut up into 6 geographic districts, generally geographic. There's 6 districts. And on top of that, there are several specialized units of roads maintenance. We have forestry, we have the call center and the command center. And if you've ever heard from me, you've heard me say 888 road crew, right? 888 road crew is the number to call for any issues anybody is having in the county. And that's where they go. We have the structures maintenance, which is our bridges and our pump houses, traffic maintenance, signals and sign shops, our Waymaster, which also has permits, and then construction and heavy maintenance work that we all look forward to every year. Moving on to Division of Engineering, I want to introduce to you Sammy Caldi. Sammy has been with Wayne County for many, many years now. He has taken on the leadership role as our Chief Engineer and Director of the Division of Engineering. Sammy is assisted by Alan Coe and Suzanne Henderson, who are here today as well. So engineering really coordinates the planning, design, and construction of all the roads and bridges, the rehabilitation and the replacement of those. They also run the permits office, which works closely with Patrick Cullen's shop, and the permits office is housed in engineering. And they're also responsible for providing all the engineering and technical services for infrastructure that aligns with our 10-year asset management plan. And finally, in the roads funding, we have equipment division. We're joined by Angelia Miller, who is the assistant, and she is the assistant to the division director, Derek Coley. Derek is joining us on Zoom, could not be here today. Equipment division handles all the fleet maintenance, all the engine repairs for not just DPS, but all the other vehicles in the county. And the other side of their shop is called IPPM, the Inventory Personal Property Management Unit. That orders and inventories over 4,500 separate items that are needed for assets and structures. Finally, we have the Division of Administration. The director of that division is Shawnee DeBerry, who joins us on via Zoom. And this division is planning and executing the range of services that support all DPS, including human resources, financial management, and strategic management. So I thank you for all that. I know it was a mouthful, but it's kind of my first time getting out and explaining all these things to you as a director, rather than the liaison for the CEO's office. If I can too, I just want to stress, this is a new role for me, obviously. You may remember that I was deputy director at one time of the department. And most recently, I've been liaison to this commission for Mr. Evans. I have a few priorities that I hope to really implement. And these are more of ways of looking at the department. I've always been amazed by the hardworking employees from top to bottom in all our divisions. Some of the people you hear from, some of the guys you see, if you're Commissioner Baydoun, I think you get to know some of the road crew better than some others do because he's always out there talking to them. And sometimes we don't get to talk to all of our workers. We have a lot of different functions in this county. I really hope to engage and support them. We need to train them. We need to promote them. We need to advance a lifelong career in Wayne County DPS. And that's a high priority. Starts with listening to them and getting out there where they work and hearing what we can do for them to keep them here. And they're our best recruiting tools. The best recruiting tools that I've heard of are the employees here that are telling other people about coming into Wayne County. I also want to continue the efforts of the data-driven and thoughtful investment of our precious dollars. I want to work through the asset management plan that was developed to maximize our road dollars. We all know that there are nearly infinite needs. There are finite dollars, and the best way of spending that is data-driven. And I want to continue to develop that and work with all of our divisions for that one goal of using the dollars as best we can to support our infrastructure. And then finally, I really want to focus on communications. And that means within our department, with all the various divisions that we have, I want us to communicate better. I want engineering to know what roads is doing on everything. I want parks to know what they're doing. And environmental, of course, has to know about many of the things, even if it doesn't touch them directly. I believe in the communication within ours. I also believe strongly in communication with our 43 communities. It's my goal to have especially our roads, maintenance, and engineering, sit down with our communities one-on-one and hear about their priorities and their concerns, whether it's a concern that they weren't listened to in the past, or whether it's a concern of an actual infrastructure issue. I plan on facilitating those through the deputies. And I expect that to happen. I also would like easier access to information. I don't want to carry around a little spreadsheet all the time and you guys asking me when a job is coming up here and when a job is coming up there. We're going to really work to push that out so that everybody has access to that information. So I'm sorry if I dragged on. That is my opening statement. I'm happy to open it up to any questions from, there's one person I didn't introduce and I made a note here. I'm sorry. Moina Moore. Moina is at the end here. Moina is our lead management and budget personnel. She leads the team. We have a great team management budget. We call it DPS Finance. And Moina is really bears the brunt of a lot of the budget work. So I wanted to point her out as well.
Since we have the chair of our committee on public safety on our committee, I'm going to have Commissioner Marecki start off the questioning, and then we'll go on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't know, did you want to do this by like department, like start with the environment? We have 3 different budgets. And did you want me to just ask general questions or go by?
Since everybody is here, Mark, would you be good with?
I don't know if it'd be a problem if we did them in totality.
Yeah.
In totality? Okay. I will only start with a couple questions. I have a lot of questions, but I thought we were going to go by each budget. I'm going to look for the most, okay. I guess, Andy, this would be to you. There's 508 FTEs right now in the in DPS department. There's 187 vacancies. And my question is, if we had a ton of money come from all sources to do all the work we need to have done in our townships and cities, would we even have the manpower to be able to get these projects done? And every commissioner has their projects that are very important to them. So I'm just wondering, like, with that kind of shortage, what can be done to get these projects?
I think, and it's my first go around, but so it's speculation, but if you look, there hasn't been some cliff that's fallen off with the FTEs, right? This is, it's been a continuous issue for Wayne County DPS, probably for decades. Those positions aren't filled. I can't really speak too much to those positions. We are constantly trying to fill them throughout. Some of the skilled laborers, whether it's a PSMW, whether it's a laborer, the engineers, we are very hopeful that with some of the new contracts that have come through, they're much more attractive. Could we do all the work? Well, I guess the trick is what is defined as all the work, right? We kind of right size what we're able to do with not just the money that we come in and do it, but also the personnel that we have for that. So yeah, we have personnel right now that can get done what we put forward in our capital improvement plans and our CIPs and our planning documents. I don't know that's going to necessarily be an issue. What we like to do is try to supplement some of the work we're able to do with, and I'm just speaking on roads maintenance side, for instance. If you have townships here in Western Wayne, you've been complaining about the ditching, right? And the garbage that grows in, the weeds that grow in, the ditches, and it impacts the road degrading, it impacts the flow of water. For instance, that's something that we can, and we are now looking at contracting to assist our own workers that do that, but so that we can get more miles of that. Another example would be potholes, pothole patching. There were 3 contracts that were done in the last few months with this terrible freeze-thaw cycle that we suffered through in the early spring, late winter, whatever that is in Michigan. But I think you guys remember the terrible potholes that we had pop up. Our crews were out there doing it as much as they could. We had 3 supplemental contractors go out and also hit areas to do that work. So I think a smart way of doing it is always going to blend outside work, project-specific work with the work that we do internally. But it is an issue. I'm not going to say we wouldn't love to have more personnel. I just don't know that we're not kind of conditioned to do what we do with what we have right now.
And just a side note before I ask another question, I had mentioned to you that the Committee on Public Services would really like to see that 10-year plan at some point. It's probably into its third year, second year, just so we can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, I think we're working on the first year's work that was planned on it, I believe. But yes, I'm really excited and looking forward to kind of better explaining that plan and better explaining it within our department of making sure everybody is, rowing in the same direction on this, because I believe that the system is proven. Our contractors that we use are HNTB and Wade Trim. This is a proven method around the nation of preserving what we have with our dollars. So I want to explain that. I want everybody to understand why certain projects are selected and what we're going to be doing with that. So absolutely.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the commissioners that have in the past that were part of the township initiative program, that has been taken out of the budget the last couple of years. And can you address anything?
Yeah, and
to that?
No, absolutely. I'm sure. And I know it was, I don't want to call it wildly popular, but it's something that comes up a lot. And I think it's always, it's important because townships know they're getting some attention. It's like a guarantee of attention, if you will.
Indeed, some would consider it necessity.
Okay. It's a necessity that we improve the roads and structures in townships as we do in cities and everywhere else. Absolutely. I think the trick was the program, from what I can tell, trying to put the pieces together here, we haven't done it in a few years. We're still kind of going back and forth with invoices and payments to at least 2 communities still for things that were approved and agreed to years ago. The administration of it has not been smooth. It hasn't run well. And if you recall, some communities got certain projects because they were able to match the funds, to have a certain percentage match. Other communities, they just didn't have matching money. So what do we do? Well, we worked with them to pick areas that they would like, and then we went out and did that work. I want to continue that spirit. I plan on having all of our township, their leadership, their DPWs meet with our leadership. What are your biggest concerns? Which of them are the primary road concerns and which are residential road concerns? I think a huge issue that I've always heard from many of you that have townships, the residential roads. Certain roads that were built, especially certain times that have the ASR issues with the concrete. We have some contracts that are going to be in place, such as improving our catch basins and ditching roads. The ditching roads is mostly in townships. You don't find that style of road in many cities. Those are contracts we're putting in place that are going to specifically assist townships. I want to work with township leaderships to identify what we can do. Nobody likes closed bridges. Nobody likes pulverized main roads. Our funding has to be a priority for those types of things. And I hope in the next year to really get a handle on the asset management plan, make sure we're funding that out as we should. And then really looking at what dollars does it make sense to partner with local communities, partner perhaps with homeowner associations or other groups, and see how we can preserve better the roads that are already there within residential areas of the township. So that's my pledge, is to work on that. I'll be honest, the Township Road Initiative in some ways could be looked at, all right, we'll put it on the books, you tell us where to spend it, leave us alone for a year, right? We did what you said. That's not a healthy way of looking at it. It's a pretty cynical way of looking at it. We would never do that. But, I don't want that to be something that we're ever okay with, is like, hey, you guys told us you wanted this one project. Don't bother us with this other stuff.
And so when you talk about these contracts that you're talking about for ditching, those are in the works, looking for
Yes, I believe in
contractors?
my roads maintenance can correct me on this, but both the actual ditching, supplementing of cleaning out the ditches, as well as jetting out the catch basins and better inspecting the catch basins throughout the county. Those contracts have not come before you yet, correct? Somebody with you, right? Yeah. Michelle Yancey says they have not come before you yet, but they are in the works and they will be in effect soon.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just going to ask one more now because I don't want to hog all the commissioners' time. I touched base with management and budget. This is about parks. And I want to make sure I read this. This was number 17 on the parks. On the parks from our fiscal agency, and they got these answers. I just want to read this, and then I want to find out kind of what's going on here, because I did get an explanation yesterday, and it didn't quite sound what I think commissioners would think. All right, they're talking about a decrease in services and contractual services. They're talking about what the drivers are. The second driver, it says, is related to an approximate 301,000 decrease in reimbursement to communities within Wayne County for various parks projects covered by the intergovernmental agreements. The decrease is due to a reduction in millage revenue. And can somebody address this? Because I've never seen this, and I don't think the commissioners have seen this. And then I have some follow-up with that, with the answer I think you're giving me.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Marecki. I'm Drew Van Grift, Wayne County Budget Director, and I'd be pleased to speak to that item. I'd like to supersede our response to that. Our response is not accurate. There is not a budgeted decrease in the parks millage. So that is not correct. We have $6,600,000 budgeted, just as last year. With regard to the 15% carve out, that is also assured. So, you know, I apologize that answer appears in the response. There was a confusion in that response, both when this form was prepared and when we briefly spoke yesterday. But I just want to supersede that answer and provide, you know, my assurances that the tax millage will be subject to the same favorable circumstances as other tax revenues that we have in the county, so that we do not see the decrease that appears in the response.
Okay, and I just want to read the part of the millage that this is what was concerning me, because there was discussion yesterday that the commissioners were not getting they were getting their 15% after park bills were paid. And the millage actually says, the parks millage requires an annual allocation by commission district of the greater of $50,000 or 15% of the total funds generated from that district for the purpose of improving qualifying municipal parks in the 43 communities in the county of Wayne, saying that we get that money off the top, not when other bills are paid. We're supposed to be getting the 50,000 or the 15% right off.
No, I think you're absolutely right. So the ballot language, of course, is the ultimate restriction on the dollars that are collected and after the levy. And so, you know, I'd like to, you know, because of the confusion, I think it might be best if I provided a written response that analyzes, because the fundamental question, as it appears to me, Commissioner, is whether that 15% comes off the gross receipts or the net receipts. And so what you just read indicates it's a gross receipt. They would be 15% off of the gross receipts from that associated millage. I believe that to be the case. That's what I see in the budget. I'd just like the opportunity to clarify it so that we don't court confusion any further.
Okay, thank you.
Glad
And
to.
I'm all set for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we also get a printout on how much per community that we are getting the millage dollars on? I know I only get 50,000 for 3 of my communities, but I'd like to know how much in each community. And the other thing that I'm going to need more information on, how is Detroit carved out currently? If I could hear from the Parks Director, please. I get that question all the time by commissioners, so I think I want to update my knowledge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alicia Bradford, DPS Parks Division Director. The allocations for park millages are, as according to Mr. Vandegrift said, 15% of the total property tax collected. Specifically for Detroit, and as we know through the park millage language that was passed in 2016, that those particular communities that may not receive a certain minimum amount, that they instituted a minimum balance of $50,000 per each community district. So Detroit, with the composition of their 4 commissioners, received $50,000 per each community district. So Detroit's total allocation from the City of Detroit commissioners are $200,000 that they have other allocations. At times, Commissioner Killeen may contribute as well to certain portions of Detroit's property within his district.
I only have 1/3 of Detroit. What does that mean for me?
So through the chair, the calculation is per the language, 15% per the community district that they receive the funding for. So your specific community is allocated from your communities that are under your purview in your district. So Melvindale, Lincoln Park, and then I know there may be some other portion of Rouge or a portion of Detroit. So to specifically speak to that, I think that's a discussion that needs to be on a broader span with finance as well, and treasurer, how that is determined, but that is how it's carried forward with the language that we allocate and also administer the park millage funds.
The reason that we need to dive into that is because our districts have changed. And some districts have 5 different communities. Some may have less. And I know that Commissioner Baker McCormick is going to be asking you for Redford and also Detroit. So let's get the answer before we start divvying the money up. I'd appreciate it.
Madam Chair.
Is that good?
To that point, clarification.
Yes.
Just a clarification, Ms. Bradford, Director Bradford had mentioned community district rather than commission district. And there, you did mean to say, did you not, that communities within the county commission district?
Through the chair, yes, that's what I was speaking of specifically. The communities that are within the specific commissioner district.
Right, okay, thank you.
I understood that as.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry.
I would, what I would like to have clarified is the 15% as well, because property value, if it's based on property values have increased. And so it may be over the 50,000 that we're getting. So again, I think that's finance, but that would be very helpful. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, that is correct. That is calculated through Treasury and Finance and is based on the property taxes that are collected, and there is a span of at least 2 years in arrears. So your allocation, millage allocation may be based on property tax from 2019 or 2020 for the current 21-22 and so forth. So it's not current property tax recap. So of course, to Commissioner Baker McCormick's point, property value may have increased, but it may not be at the time that the allocation is moving forward because there are at least a year to 2 in arrears that they're basing that recap on. And that is calculated from treasurer and then to finance, and then finance then gives those calculations to me in order to notify the commissioners of their specific allocations for their communities within their district.
I personally feel that we need to revisit the verbiage only because some of the small communities, such as my Melvindale, pays very little compared to Lincoln Park. And it's up to the commissioner whether they're going to give what project to which city. And sometimes the little cities may or may not get their fair share back. So I just want to, I know I'm leaving, but I want to make sure that those things are considered for the smaller communities. And knowing the amount makes it easier for a commissioner to say to a smaller city, this is what you paid into it, so this is what I can give you. So it would be a fair way of a commissioner to decide instead of making just an educated guess.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you
through
for
the,
that.
and through the chair, and you know as well that the park millage supports the operating budget for Parks Division and as well as our capital improvement plan as well. So that is all out of the park millage funding.
Oh, I understand. I'm just talking about the 15%.
Correct. Thank you.
Commissioner Baydoun, Vice Chair Baydoun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, allow me by thanking Andy and the entire staff of the DPS for being so responsive. And thank you, Andy, for making Miller Road and Miller Bridge a top priority. It means a lot to the residents of Dearborn. It's long overdue. And thank you, Steve Shea. I have to call him out because not call him out, I want to mention his name and thank him publicly for working so hard on that small stretch of Oakman Boulevard in Dearborn. It was horrible, as bad as Miller Road, but thank you for taking care of that. My question, Andy, is, you know, last year, several pumps in Wayne County failed during the flooding after they lost power, specifically the one I'm referring to on Greenfield in Dearborn near Michigan Avenue. And I know the contract came before us. Are we expecting some of these pumps to be replaced this year? And are they in the budget? Like, I know you can't do the 41 at one time because it's too expensive. We just don't want a repeat of having another issue. That's my first question. Then I have another question after that.
Thank you. Thank you, through the chair. If we were up on the 7th floor, somebody would have kicked me under the table. I neglected to point out leadership of our roads maintenance division. I jumped right into all the great work that they do. As Commissioner Baydoun just said, Steve Shea is Director of Roads Maintenance, who is here, and I'm going to ask him to step to the microphone at this time. We also he has his great two assistants. We have Robin Rivers, who is here with us today, and Joe Tomasek, who is seated behind him. They're both the assistants to the Director of Roads Division, Steve Shea. So Steve, can you update us on the project?
Test. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
You passed.
Thank you, Commissioner Varga. Thank you for that, Director Kandrivas. So as you know, Commissioner Baydoun, we did go out for bid for those three. Actually, we're in the process and we have already started a 7-year CIP plan to rehab the 32 pump houses in Wayne County. So the first three, the design is already complete. Construction documents already complete. And now the project has been awarded to Z Contracting. So we anticipate as soon as we get everything moving along, we hope to break ground this year, but if not, I'm more optimistic to starting this year for the first three, which is the 716, the 182, and 111, in particular the one on Greenfield by Conrail Pump House. In addition to that, we already have 11 in the works as well. That's in the design phase. And you had asked specifically about generators. One of the things that we're looking at, Commissioner Baydoun, is that we're looking to implement a Scada system, which is the supervisory control and data acquisition. It's a monitoring of pumps, and we'll be able to pinpoint elevations of water if power goes out, which is a very great tool that MDOT usually uses, and our guys are accustomed to that in our bridge unit. In addition to that, we're also exploring the idea of back generators. But, you know, this has to go through, we're digging right now. I'm also reached out to our partners, MDOT, Mike Budai, who they're facilitating. I think they're doing about 100 pump stations with backup generators. So I'm getting some feedback from them to try to facilitate that as well. But everything is moving pretty good. And hopefully we'll break ground soon to replace and upgrade some of these pump houses.
Thank you, Steve. Andy, this past year, with the pothole season, when it came so early, it seemed that we were not prepared 100%. We did not subcontract with other contractors because we don't have enough staff to handle the potholes. Are we preparing this year to make sure this does not happen again this coming spring?
Through the chair, Commissioner Baden, that will happen. We will have supplemental contracts in the works. I know that road maintenance has already been working on that, so we're not going to get blindsided by that again. I think as you mentioned, it was how I understand it too, that those contracts were not in place, supplemental contracts, but we're going to make sure that happens this year.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, I was the only commissioner to introduce him to use the WhatsApp group. It's much easier to videotape and send it to him on WhatsApp.
Don't promote that.
Learning a lot from you, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. Just have a few little things. First of all, I probably should have asked Director Bradford when she was up here or mentioned it. She recently, I got in touch with her over a health and safety issue, really, for the drivers and driving into Hines Park. And I wanted to give her kudos. She's not even here, is she? She probably thought we were done with it. But I wanted to give her kudos for responding very quickly. There was a safety issue for drivers as they were coming into Hines Park. There was a lot of growth over one of the, at the end, if you looked east, and I think there was a very serious motorcycle accident there. And I don't know what it was due to, if it was due to the obstruction or not, but she responded very quickly, I think within either the next day or 2 days later. And that was one of those days that we had that heavy rain too, I believe. And her department took care of it very quickly. There she is. Alicia, I was giving you kudos for how you took care of that safety issue with the traffic view going into Hines Park. And I just wanted to commend you for that. That was a very quick response. And I don't know if it was a part of the issue with that accident or not that I told you about, but you've made it a lot safer there. And just wanted to thank you for that. And all right. And I did want to mention and ask Andy if, as the new director, if you would be planning on maybe hiring some through a contract basis to help catch up with the forestry division. There's a lot that really, as you probably know, all around the county. And I'm seeing it in cities that I represent and other places that I don't represent. Just this morning, coming in off of the freeway and where it's actually just to the east of Wayne County Community College, the growth, and I don't know if we have that responsibility or not, up on the sides of the ramps and everything, that I don't know if that's City of Detroit or if that's us. But I would assume because we have a lot of freeways, I think it's the Lodge. I just know how that I use that road all the time, and I know it. And like I said, it backed up the claim that it's everywhere. We're seeing it everywhere, and I know in Livonia on I believe it's Middle Belt and Merriman Road. These aren't green areas; these are just weeds that are waist high on some of those roads. It's really looks bad, and I know it's there's other priorities that are calling on the limited manpower that you have in the department. But if someone could take a look at those and try to take care of some of those issues, and like I said, possibly having some contracts with outside contractors if we don't have the manpower to do it, to get us caught up like we've done in years past on mowing and other issues.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, I'm going to ask Steve Shea to come up again because Steve in Roads Maintenance has been working on supplementing our own workforce in a lot of these areas. They want to point out, and Steve knows the jurisdictional map better than I do, but a lot of, if not all of the interstate system is MDOT MDOT regulates that. MDOT, when we do things for MDOT, like clean things off the freeway, it's by contract. We're like a vendor to MDOT.
Right.
They do not retain us, I believe, and Steve will correct me here. They don't retain us to do a lot of that slope mowing, the grade mowing. We do have slope mowing for some railroad areas that are our jurisdiction. And we do have, you're not from the side of town that seems to, it doesn't affect you so much. If Tim Colleen were here, he would talk. We've been going around and around for many years, and some of the contractors we've used for boulevard mowing. And Commissioner McCormick here as well. These are big concerns in some of the communities where we have very large medians. And we've been working, and I think this year's worked out better than the last year. Steve's been tinkering with staying on top of our vendors and changing vendors when needed. So we definitely want to supplement that. Forestry was another concern you brought up. That is something that Steve's been working on. We have really great workers for forestry. They're not enough, and you can't find them anywhere for anything. It's just the way it is right now with foresters. But I'll let Steve just touch upon some of the great efforts that they've done.
So with regards to our 2022 paving season, last year we put up 78.8 lane miles, which was an outstanding number. This year, our goal is to go and pave 114 lane miles in-house. In addition to that, what Director Kendrivas just alluded to is that in addition to that, we also have the HMA supplemental contractors list in which we are going to do another 40 lane miles for a total number of 154 lane miles. I think we're going to shatter the ceiling. But our guys, I'm so proud of our guys. Our guys are working really hard. You know, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of efforts working with different PDs and fire departments and putting notifications out. But yes, some of our more difficult projects that need more traffic control is going to be assigned to the HMA contractors list.
And last comment, I just wanted to give Steve kudos too. I mean, he is, as Commissioner Baydoun has said, this guy is just 24/7 been on the job, and he really he's really shining in that department. And you got a good crew, Andy. You really and but I appreciate. I just didn't know who would take care of that type of removal of vegetation.
So just for the mowing, you know, we have 3 vendors now, and the east side and the west side is broken down for boulevard mowing as well and grade separation. So it was what Mr. Kendrivas alluded.
And I have an SR number that I can give you if you want to afterwards. That I think they've been waiting almost a year. It's at the back of a development in Westland called Anthony's Pond, and it's county land. And it's been waiting for some type of action. Someone did go out on the site and talk to the homeowner, but the trees have fallen onto their fence on their property and damaged the fence.
There's an SR number. We'd be happy to look at it.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
I think you would probably shatter the ceiling if you got the rest of the road done in Commissioner Anderson's district. I'm surprised you didn't bring that up. Thank you.
I had talked to Andy about it already, so.
On the list, Cherry Hill's on the list.
Yeah, we want to make sure this ceiling keeps being shattered. Thank you. You guys are all doing a great job. I'd like to hear a little bit about some of the improvements that will be done with some federal dollars, maybe to the Coarse Creek.
Good afternoon, Elmika Steele, Deputy Director, Wayne County Department of Public Services. Commissioner, you may be referring to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers project. There was an announcement that was made earlier this week regarding some community project funding awards that was granted for the Army Corps project. That announcement was made at Dearborn Heights City Hall. And special thanks to Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and Congresswoman Debbie Dingell for their assistance with that. So if you may recall, the Army Corps has for some time been performing a study for a project for the North Branch Ecorse Creek Drain. And the study phase of the project has concluded. And what they are proposing is to construct a basin in the city of Dearborn Heights that will help in some storm events in terms of storage, stormwater storage. So the next phase is the design phase. And that was the Community Project Funding Award that was announced earlier in the year. So beginning in fiscal year 23, the Army Corps will start the study phase of constructing that basin. And then hopefully at the conclusion of the design phase of the basin. And then hopefully at the conclusion of the design phase of that particular project, they would ultimately be appropriated funds through Congress to actually construct the basin. So we're still, few years out before you'd actually see some construction, but it is nice to know that the study phase at least has concluded. We're moving towards design and then hopefully moving towards construction of an Army Corps project.
Yeah, on the county level, doing similar thoughts about bringing in a little bit of tax dollars to, I know how the state law works, so I'm good with that. But I want to go beyond that.
Sure.
It's not enough because we have people who have trees on the banks of the creek, and it's falling into their property. And well, I'll use my staff for example. She had to pay $900 out of pocket because 2 of the trees, actually 3, had fallen over, taken her fence down. She has to have a privacy fence. I'm sorry, I'm talking about you. Privacy fence was also damaged because of the tree that was 25 feet out by the creek. And it's not for her, but the rest of my communities able to bear the cost of these tree removals. Really need to try and for that. I mean, it's something that we could go beyond state law. Anytime at all. I think we have a little bit of cushion. Mark, I'm sorry I didn't bring this up. Bit of cushion to do that this year. So I would really, really like you within the next week or so. If we could do a little preventative. I'm going to take the whole neighborhood's electricity out. I would like to have you think about bringing something back.
We'll absolutely get back. We'll talk about it.
Or Sam Baydun.
To that point, Madam Chair, Andy, I don't know, I thought I was under the understanding that the county is going to invest some money in terms of cleanup around the Ecorse Creek this year.
Constantly the efforts, we're hopeful. We're hopeful there's a lot of efforts, there's a lot of requests, there's things in the hopper. So we will, that's
Okay.
going to be a concern. That concern is highly prioritized, and we hope to have some more news soon.
Okay, thank you.
To your point. And are you, I think
Yes, go ahead.
Commissioner Baydun is referring to the ARPA funds, right? Yeah, which that was my understanding too. With Khalil's.
And I can't can't tell you what ARPA, I can't get into the ARPA fund stuff. It's not, I've had a hard enough time figuring out DPS without getting into ARPA and economic developments, quarterbacking it and everything else. So.
I just need, I don't care where the money comes from, whether
Sure.
it's
No, understood.
ARPA or it's the general fund. I just want some relief for the constituents. So if you could get an answer for me, either one way or the other, because it's something very, very needed and necessary.
And if I could just add, again, and I definitely understand, the what you're expressing. And I just want you to know that obviously in DPS, we're passionate about it. I mean, we do as much maintenance as we can, as you mentioned, as the law allows us. One thing I do want to mention as part of the Michigan Association of County Drain Commissioners, because this is not just unique to Wayne County. Other drain commissioners around the state are dealing with the same challenges. And so one of the things that is happening right now in the Michigan legislature is MACDC has advocated for an amendment to the drain code to increase the statutory maintenance limit. Now, it's currently $5,000 per mile of drain annually. So nobody fall out of your chair. It's going to go up a couple $1,000. But one of the language amendments that was added is to add an inflation factor. So you don't have to keep trying to go back and amend it, every other year. Because we know that in today's prices, that doesn't go very far when you're trying to do maintenance. Additionally, there are some other amendments to the drain code that are forthcoming that will allow for drain commissioners to be able to have some more tools in their toolbox, is the way we like to say it, to be able to address things on more of a watershed basis. Again, to try to go beyond what we currently think of for drain maintenance. So I just want to let you know there are efforts underway, notwithstanding obviously advocating, for any federal dollars that we can get. But I do want you to know that this is an issue that from a statewide standpoint, drain commissioners are looking at and are taking legislative changes to try to make those things easier for drain commissioners to address.
Thank you. Does the state law prevent us from putting more money into it and not charging the communities back?
So the way the drain code is currently written is the costs are assessed to the drainage district. So we cannot exceed that maintenance limit. There's some very narrow exceptions in which you can exceed that limit, but for the most part, you cannot exceed it. You'd have to either get, there's some processes for resolution or some in extreme cases. But so that's why I was saying there were some amendments in place to try to address the current language of the drain code.
So even if we did an ordinance at the county level and fund it, it probably wouldn't do any good. The state law would prevent it.
What I am saying is I am not saying that the county cannot elect to give money to a drainage district, but I'm just simply referring to what we can do at this time under the drain code.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We had Martha G. Scott, Commissioner Martha G. Scott, and Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you. I don't say very much, so she didn't look over here. Thank you. Madam Chair.
You know what? I'm sorry. The computer is in my way, but
okay.
I found you.
All right. Baydoun was taking up all the time. But anyway, Outer Drive. I want some contractors that does Outer Drive that will do around the edges and all of that, because even when they cut the grass, it's not done well enough. Because if it's done well, then it will last a little longer. Even if the grass grows up a little more, it will have the edges at least done. I've been asking for this for years. I think this last one was a little bit better, but he did not do around the sides and that too. And the roads on Outer Drive by, I guess it's almost to, anyway, all of Outer Drive from the east side over to probably, I would say, maybe 75. But all of that really needs to be done. Nothing has been done. I mean, my community's had me come out there 2 or 3 times to look at it. So, and the roads are really bad. So please, you have enough folks here to hear me today, right? Okay. Okay, it's not much I ask you all, but you know, Outer Drive, I'm glad you finally got Conant done. But there is a gas station, and this guy calls me almost every day, where we did help him with his gas station right there at Conant. But when the equipment was brought in to do the roads over there, they put them on the property like next door. And I guess he wants something done about that because some of his driveway or something was kind of messed up with the equipment on there. I've tried to explain it a couple times to people, but I know you have enough folks here today that somebody will be able to help me.
Through the chair, that is definitely a risk management issue that we work, it happens a lot. People say, hey, this happened, that happened through DPS activity. We will, if you can give me that contact, we can make sure that our risk management unit processes it as it should be processed.
Very good.
If I understood and the question, if there was something you're saying was a Wayne County led project, then absolutely risk management.
That was done on Conant.
Okay, and then there are instances when, you know, if it was a project where there was an outside contractor, in our contracts that we have, they are required to carry insurance. And so in that instance, our risk management would work with them to ensure the claim is filed with their insurance company.
Before you leave, I'll give you this guy's phone number so that you can contact him. So he won't keep calling me. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. I appreciate that. I also wanted to thank Mrs. Bradford for all that she has done with my county parks and that in Highland Park and Hamtramck. So I do appreciate her. So thank you very much. Oh, that one on Outer Drive, it was a drain in a what do you call it?
Turnaround.
A turnaround, right. Now it was covered rather than to change the drain the iron that's in there, that whatever you call that. It was covered rather than redone because it's a drainage where some water could go down, you know. But now it's covered with tar or something.
We'll look at that again.
Okay, please do. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's probably something I should have done by phone and I tried, but now that all of them was here, I thought I'd talk about it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was looking at the list of projects. There are paving, what you talked about paving projects, and then you also talked about engineering projects. There's about 32 projects. It doesn't indicate what city those projects are in or the total amount per city. Do you have that information by city? Because you can't really tell where these projects are? And if not, if we can get those,
Yes, we can figure that out for sure if we.
okay, because it'll just be interesting to know where the project dollars are going to what city and how much each city is getting.
Okay, I'm not sure which documents you received, but we'll make sure that that gets circulated.
Let's see. This is with the flow charts in it. This
Okay.
is the fiscal.
From the packet, the fiscal packet.
Fiscal, yes. A packet, right, and it gives the dollar amount. There's 32 projects. And by the way, I don't see, and I was told that West 6 Mile would be either repaved. I'm not sure if that's under engineering, what exactly is gonna be done, but that's West McNichols between Telegraph and Lasher Grand River area. That road is terrible. I was told that it would be redone, but I don't see it
That's,
indicated.
yeah, I can, if Madam Chair is okay with it, I can defer to Sammy Caldi, but that is, or Alan. I know Alan's been working on it as well, whichever
Okay,
Sammy.
thank you.
Oh, Madam Chair, I'd like to speak to this one. As far as 6 Mile, we call it McNichols in our maps. This is right now going through the MDOT approval, and we are doing the survey for it. Our main goal is to get it designed and obligated this year, and we're hopefully the construction will start next year, 2023.
Okay.
For this one. I have also just want to answer Commissioner Scott. As far as that catch basin she was talking about, how are you? The catch basin you were talking about, and there is a cover there. Anytime we have a project, we have to have a soil erosion control method. So during constructions, all these structures, we have to cover them, that the sediment doesn't go into the sewer system. We are mandated to do that. So if that was during construction, that's why you see the cover. It would take a little bit of time for the water to infiltrate into the system. But these ones, we also have to be checked after each rain event. That's what the maintenance schedule calls for, per the DEQ, that they have to be checked after every rain event within 24 hours. So, I mean, this project is almost about to wrap up too. So that's the reason why you see the cover, and it's not like really permanent there. It will be removed when the project is done and cleaned out. Yes, the cover will be removed when the project is done and everything is cleaned out.
Madam Chair.
I think this project it's wrapping up, this project. The project you mentioned, Conan, is about to be done within probably another month or so. But paving, striping, everything is complete. Sure, no problem.
Okay, and I just had another question that you might be able to answer in reference to the bridge work on Finkel, just east of Telegraph. It's bridge work that has been sitting for at least seems like 3 years now.
So just for information, Finkel is 5 Mile too. So there's a lot of people sometimes when they mix them up.
On my side, it's Finkel.
Yeah, yeah. So in our design books, we call it 5 Mile. This is under design right now. Our main goal is to finish the design in 2022 and construction starts in 2023. That's the schedule for this one.
And then there's Outer Drive. When they redid Outer Drive, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but there's been quite a few accidents on the curve at West Outer Drive and the Lodge. Schaefer Lodge area. And I was wondering if there are reflective signage or arrows that can be put on the road so that people can see that there's a curve there. They've ran into the poles and the grass right at the turn, almost hitting someone's house. So that was a question I had. And yes, Outer Drive is much better than it has been the grass. So I want to thank you for that because I haven't gotten this year a lot of calls on that. And the trash issue though, I'm fighting the war on trash. And I was just wondering, is there a schedule of mowing as well as, I know they're supposed to pick up the trash first and then mow. Is there somewhere we can direct constituents when they call our office to see when it's going to be cleaned up or mowed? Thank you.
Hello, Commissioner. Steve Shea again. So we do have a mowing schedule and it really should be online, but if you need a mowing schedule, I can certainly get one over to you. And again, it's all broken down with contractors assigned to what, and basically it's boulevard mowing and grade separation as well.
Okay, so, but you don't know if it is online or not?
If not, I can certainly get one over to you.
Okay, is it any way it can be put online though, so we can direct our
I can double check.
constituents to say that you can see the mowing schedule online?
Double check with.
And they
Yeah.
do clean up the trash before they mow?
So yes, so before all the mowing begins, they do go out, litter pick, and then they'll do the weed whacking, and then they'll follow with the mowing.
Thank you so much. And
Yes, ma'am.
like I said, it's a much better Outer Drive is. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You know, this happens every year. We're going to talk about our wish list and then we'll talk about your budget, overall budget. So I know that Terry has quite a few questions, others as well. Commissioner Baker McCormick, I don't want to cut you off. Are you all set? Okay. Mark, do you want to chime in before I have Commissioner Marecki next?
I just had a quick observation, and it goes back to the discussion we had about the township roads, and this is for Andrew. And again, this is just an observation. Several years ago, we budgeted $14 million for the township road initiative. And it would seem to me since all of the Act 51 money is collected by the county for the township roads, and they are entirely the responsibility of the county, having townships want to make a local match to make repairs or improvements to them should not really necessarily be looked at as an expenditure, but more of a source of revenue. And because all we're really doing is invoking a different timetable for those maintenance and repair items. Is that not?
I can never disagree with how you put anything financial, but I will not disagree with that. I look forward to working with you with several hats that you wear on this issue for sure.
No, I appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you very much. I mean, and my point is that I think it would be easier if we just had a process where perhaps an application could be made and the application evaluated for its merits. That's all. So that there's just a formal process. So it's not so informal that.
Absolutely. The informality is, I think, always bites us in the behind. So no, I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinlock.
No question at this time. Was my light on?
Your light was on and Commissioner Marecki said to let you go first. So Okay, Commissioner Markey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andy, I'm wondering what in Fund 201, the Roads Division, County Roads Fund, the use of fund balance is going to go up significantly, and wondering what that is for 140%.
I didn't know.
Oh, whoever you.
I just didn't know you concluded. I'm sorry.
I'm
No.
directing it to you.
Yeah,
as
absolutely. And
courtesy.
I'm going to shove it off on our management and budget folks if I can.
Yeah, I just, why Michelle's coming up too, I just noticed Tim Johnson. No, Michelle, are you coming up? Oh.
Not on this one.
I just want to, Tim sent us documents with our lobbyists in Lansing, and there's been a Senate bill that's been introduced that will require motor fuel taxes to be dispersed in the county where it's pumped. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But back to the budget.
First of all, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners, audience. Moina Moore, DPS Finance Director. And the use of fund balance has increased just south of $34 million for fiscal year 23. It's my understanding it's related primarily to a bridge project. But I would imagine the bridge, perhaps engineering team could speak more to the specifics of the project. But I understand it is bridge related.
Okay, you're one project? This is one project?
Perhaps engineering could provide the details for that.
So let me just say this. I do know that because of the asset management plan and the planning that was taken, all the bridge work that was needed, kind of, I don't want to call it accelerated because you're like accelerated from what, but all the needs that were needed on bridge, I know that previously we were slotting a lot more projects and using the fund balance to pay for more bridge work than we would have normally undertaken in any one year. And that's kind of my view from the executive's office working with former Director Watts on these things. I don't know if there's any other light that we can shed on that, but I do know
This
that
is more engineering
that asset
services.
management plan, these are the larger projects. The bridges are the ones that, you know, as Commissioner rightfully points out, Finkel/5 Mile has been out, you know, we close a lane. We did that over in your district as well too on 8 Mile, right? We shut a lane down to kind of get more use out of a bridge, but effectively it needs a replacement. So we're trying to replace more of those than we had been in the past, and we're using fund balance to spend that down. I think that's what the theory has been on that.
In the questions, there was a question about if there's any contract employees, and the answer was no. Do you still have one contract employee?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. So our understanding of the question is that it was asking if we have a full-time equivalent contract employee, which based on the way that the question was written, we do not have a full-time equivalent contract employee. That was our understanding of the question and verified with our personnel liaison.
Is Bill Bantam still working?
Yes,
He's
but
not full-time?
He is not a full-time equivalent employee, contract employee.
He's a part-time?
As needed. I don't even know if it would constitute part-time.
Yep, you know, kind of project specific. He puts in certain hours when the projects have been coming up, at least in my experience over the last couple of months, working on different documents and different planning. So, you know, it's definitely not 40 hours a week. He's not, I don't think he's anywhere near the cap that he can have under that contract.
Right. So. They have a cap. Okay, okay, I think I'm set. Thank you to all of you. You do a great job, and I can't thank you enough for everything you do in my district and all around the county.
Thank you. Mark, do we have any more concerns, any comments before we wrap up, I guess?
No, I think we're good. I thank you for the department for their presentation. Really appreciate all the hard work and your responses to our questions.
Again, thank you, Andy, to all the staff at DPS for a wonderful work that you're doing. Madam Clerk, next item.
Next item, item E, no new business, there is none listed. Next item, item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
We have none. Next item.
Item G, public comments.
Is there anybody here from the public that would like to make a comment? Anywhere here from the public? Okay, anyone on Zoom that would like to make a comment? You have 1 to 2 minutes. If anyone on Zoom would like to make a comment? Anyone? No one? Next item.
Item H, adjournment.
So moved.
We have support.
Support.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.